Yo, 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 yo! Welcome to the Swindler's Minute. I'm here after a short hiatus as the Swindler, although you can call me Castaspella. Today we're going to tackle our fifth bounty hunter in this series, with a focus on Zam Wesell. Like fellow bounty hunter Dengar, Zam is a slow farm from the guild store, so while many of us already have her to 7, since she has been available for quite a while now, she'll take several months to farm from scratch, even if you buy her shards every time she appears in the shop. Long story short, if you don't have her finished already, you'll want to start picking up her shards when you can, since, as we'll discuss, Zam is the linchpin to a bounty hunter team, which is something that most players will now want to have with the introduction of Darkside territory battles and territory wars. Now, to understand Zam's contributions to a team, we first have to set up a general scenario. First, and most importantly, we're in a full bounty hunter team behind a Boba Fett lead, which gives us a bonus 50% crit damage and a modest 10% crit chance. Bubba's lead also grants 15 speed to each bounty hunter ally for each debuffed enemy, that is up to 75 speed for each member of your team, plus 15% turn meter each time a thermal detonator explodes. Now finally, if we assume a modest 80% potency, average, that is across the team, Boba Fett's lead grants a whopping 20,000 health to each squad mate on this all bounty hunter team. Zam's basic is the only direct damage dealing move in her kit. And while her base unmodded damage is mediocre, that is even behind Boba Fett, and assuming a crit, she only hits for about 8,500 before mods, which is pretty terrible. But she does pop all of the thermal detonators on that target, and as long as you keep your bounty hunters alive, she'll gain full turn meter and be ready to go again immediately. Now this, combined with the rest of your team gaining 15% turn meter for each exploded detonator, gives bounty hunters a viable turn meter engine, especially if Greedo is throwing his AoE detonators as well to keep things humming along. Popping a few bombs across the opposing team can allow Zam Wesell to use her first special, See What Sticks, much more frequently than its 4-turn cooldown would suggest. See What Sticks also grants Zam speed up 70% of the time, which is always useful, and combined with Zam's very high base speed, and up to 75 additional speed from Bubba's lead, she really is a lightning-fast scoundrel attacker, as mentioned in her description. Electro Goggles gives a situationally useful evasion down to all enemies for 4 turns. It can also trigger the additional speed from Bubba's lead if any enemies weren't already debuffed, and sticking an expose on the primary target. The 50% turn meter gain, or 50% chance rather, to gain 50% turn meter is pretty nice, although because this ability is fairly weak in many matchups, which is basically anywhere there's lots of cleansers or against characters without any bonus evasion, so effectively most teams, this 50% turn meter gain chance isn't enough to justify using this special all the time. That said, it can be very strong against evasion leaders, which we'll touch on shortly after we finish talking about our abilities and stats. I must also mention that while the AI's use of mini characters is a persistent gripe for players, Zam's AI is especially lame, because while she does correctly open up with See What Sticks to distribute detonators, she fails to follow up with her basic to blow them up, and instead uses Electro Goggles as her second move. Now I realize this is how the AI in the game works, although because the devs did recently roll out some AI improvements, which I assume gives them more tools to specifically adjust individual characters, I'd love to see Zam prioritize the use of her basic whenever she can attack a character with a detonator. Maybe even only when she's in an all bounty hunter team, but that might be asking a little too much. Now that I've said my piece about her AI, let's talk about her unique, Shapeshifter. This is a complex ability with 3 separate but related bonuses, which essentially combines to give Zam a lot of evasion through flat bonuses and the ability to gain evasion up whenever she's crit. She also dispels all debuffs on herself whenever she evades, so not only is she pretty hard to hit, but she also frequently self-cleanses. The added evasion is worth special mention here, since when she has evasion up, which, as many of us know, gives a 15% flat added evasion, she'll achieve 35% evasion, which can jump up to 53% whenever she's debuffed. I've thought about this possibly working behind a Cad Bane lead for the extra 20% evade, although while running 73% evasion would be pretty cool, it wouldn't come close to making up for the loss of Bubba's lead, and maintaining her maximum evasion isn't even really realistic, since Zam takes so many turns, meaning her evasion up won't tend to last very long, and she self-cleanses, so she'll regularly lose that additional 18% bonus she can pick up. Now that said, if Cad Bane ever gets a Zeta on his leader, rest assured that we'll revisit Zam's uniquely high evasion in a future Swindler's Minute. Now speaking of Zetas, Shapeshifter only goes to 7, so it's quite possible it may also gain a Zeta if and when the Bounty Hunters get a rework, which I happen to think is incredibly likely given their required use in TB and the long-standing community interest in making this faction great, perhaps with the release of some additional tunes. I've always thought that an ability called Shapeshifter should effectively give Zam all the available racial faction tags such as Jawa, Ewok, and the like. So in the unlikely event that any devs are listening, please make it so. Looking at her stats, her base speed of 163 is among the fastest in the game, which is excellent since she'll usually be able to throw her first round of bombs and give your whole bounty hunter team 75 speed from Bubba's lead very early in the match when it's most effective. Her critical chance is on the high side as well, although because her base damage remains very low and bombs crit separately from Zam's attack, the higher than average crit chance as well as her armor penetration don't actually contribute very much. Her potency is on the high side, which is great for a bounty hunter team, since just this 47% contributes 2,350 health to each member of your bounty hunter team. And assuming the whole team has that average 80 potency, Zam can hit 46,000 health before mods, which coupled with her uniquely high evasion and resilience to debuffs makes her quite the survivor, even though she has a subpar base protection. Since there isn't anything interesting we can say about her other stats, let's talk about her mods. Zam, like most other bounty hunters, will want to use at least one potency set because of the health bonus from Bubba's lead, and either stick with potency all the way, or use a speed set, since as a high base speed character, Zam would gain 16 speed once she hits gear 12 from that speed set. Now for the primary bonuses, you'll want a protection or health circle. It doesn't really matter much either way for her, and most of us have more health circles lying around, so that may be a better option. You'll also want a speed arrow, of course, a crit damage triangle, and a potency cross. Personally, I'm using all potency sets on Zam, Dengar, and Cad Bane in my bounty hunter team. I use speed and potency on Boba Fett, got to get that ability block off early, and a crit damage, crit chance loadout for Greedo. Now, my total potency across the team is 425, so that gives me about 21,200 hit points on each squad member, just as that bonus from Boba Fett's lead. So it really is a huge bonus for the team. Zam Wesell can be used in the Bounty Hunter team for credit heists, raids, Darkside nodes, Cantina, and Galactic War. Although with the recent release of Darkside territory battles and their dedicated combat and special missions for bounty hunters, and also territory wars, where bounty hunters can really shine if you correctly select an opponent, serious players are going to want to level, star, and gear their bounty hunters so that Zam and the rest of the team can earn your guild better rewards. I'm currently using my bounty hunter squad in territory wars to take out high-end mall teams, both because Zam's AoE evasion really shines in this matchup, and even more importantly, that there isn't usually a cleanser on those mall teams, so the detonator engine actually has a chance to get going. They also seem to be very common in our first few territory wars here. I think we've done 7 so far. So having a strong counter available to this team gives the bounty hunter squad a lot of purpose in the game. Now, as a quick example, I managed to take out a 93,000 power mall-led team in the last territory war with my bounty hunters, who on my roster are 83,000 combined GP. So I can say firsthand that there's a real and useful place for these bounty hunters in territory wars. Of course, that's in addition to the territory battles where you almost certainly need them. The footage we have playing in the background here is from my Galactic War today, where I managed to clear the first 11 nodes on auto, all with bounty hunters, and then I finished the Galactic War with a pure bounty hunter team. Now, I did need to swap in 88 late in the match because I did have one death, but it was the first time I'd ever run through all 12 nodes with bounty hunters, although ever since they changed Galactic War, that doesn't seem like that much of an achievement anymore. Now, personally, I missed some aspects of the old Galactic War since it was a perfect testing ground for squads. The stakes are low, but the opposing teams were still good practice. Now, these days it's quicker, which I can't lie is amazing, but I do miss the opportunity to try out my bounty hunters and other teams against high-caliber squads outside of an arena environment. Now, all in all, I'm very pleased that bounty hunters now have a dedicated use in the game, and with this renewed interest, Hopefully we see their rework sometime very soon to address the inherent weaknesses of thermal detonators, perhaps making them uncleansable and or unresistible, along with increased damage. And I'd especially love a bounty hunter-based legendary event, maybe even where we get Jango Fett. So to sign off, may all your thermal detonators crit when they need to, and answer questions only if necessary. This has been The Swindler.